Hey, Kevin.
Hi, I can't stay. I just wanted to pop in, say hi.
Great.
Miss everybody.
Gregg Vigil here. I don't know what else you want to know about me, but these 3 people, other than you, Aaron, all know about me. No, I'll too much.
I'm Kathleen Traylor.
I'm Teri Wagner.
I'm Kevin Ahl. Well, when we started Phamaly, actually, the excess of outside world really wasn't. I was just concerned with getting Phamaly going. I really didn't think that much about how it would affect the rest of the world or anything. And then I left. I left for a couple of years, and you guys are the ones that did all the hard work.
Would you share your favorite family memory with us?
Of course, meeting my wife, Pamela, had to be the best memory ever, of course.
What was that like?
Well, I'll never forget. It was raining that night, and she came in just soaking wet. So I went and got some paper towel, and I just went and helped dry her off, and that's how we kind of met. It was the very first How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying in '95.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kevin.
No problem. Hey, guys, I love you all. You guys take care.
Love you too.
Love you, Kev.
Bye.
Great. All right. And then there were 4. So similar to the description that I had of this conversation a little earlier, Phamaly was founded in 1989, and then 1 year later, the ADA was signed into law. Was there a relationship for those events for you at the time, and have you come to see a relationship over time?
Well, I'd like to address that because prior to the ADA, we did a lot of bar hopping after rehearsals. We went to the bar a lot downtown Denver. And of course, none of them were wheelchair accessible. And they liked that we came into their bars, that we patronized their bars. And we found that over time, as we would frequent a bar, that they would start to like lay down boards for us to make the place wheelchair accessible, because we were having Mark lift my wheelchair up the curbs and such to get my wheelchair in, and I couldn't get into the bathroom, and but we were still going to the bars because we wanted to go out and drink after a good rehearsal. And then slowly they were making accommodations of their own, and then finally they were actually making the place wheelchair accessible with real concrete ramps and such. This was before the ADA, that they were making it accessible just for us, because we were a big enough group that was coming into their bars and frequenting them, and they were making money off of us. So they started making their bars wheelchair accessible just for us. And we made a difference on downtown Denver's bars that year before the ADA was signed into law. So I think that was pretty cool that we had an impact on downtown Denver for accessibility, because we had enough people in chairs that wanted to get into the bars downtown. So it was pretty cool. Just because we were drinkers, yay!
Phamaly in more than one way has definitely been ahead of the curve for a lot of that movement.
Yep.
And it wasn't just bars too, because there was a restaurant across the street from DU that was not really that accessible, and DU was not accessible at all, because we were using the space to rehearse for Guys and Dolls, but we couldn't access the bathrooms at DU because the building we were in bathrooms were down in the basement, and unless you could get up and down the stairs, we couldn't access it. So we had to go to a restaurant around the corner to use their facilities. So, and that restaurant actually did a lot for us too. Because we'd go there after rehearsal, sometimes before rehearsal. So we were all over the place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have thoughts around some of that intersection for you, Teri, in your experience?
Oh yeah, I worked for the state for over 31 years, and most of my time was spent in the downtown area. And there would be times when my coworkers would want to go out to lunch, and I couldn't go with them because I couldn't get off the sidewalk to cross the street, or I couldn't get up on the other side. So there are a lot of things that before the ADA, and just a simple thing like curb cuts, made it impossible to go very far by yourself unless you had somebody who could pop your chair up over the curb. And when Phamaly started, I don't think that any of us, or at least I wasn't, in the mindset of let's change the accessibility of the world. We were more focused on, we want to do theater, and by gosh, if nobody will hire us, we'll do it ourselves. And I think some of the things that came out of that determination to perform enhanced what the ADA was trying to do, and made it very visible that, hey, there really is a need, especially in downtown Denver, because obviously we weren't the only disabled people in downtown Denver, but we were very visible.
Do you think the visibility of Phamaly contributed to some of the changes that have gone forward, and your commitment to make people with disabilities visible in a performance setting?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's even changed several of the local theaters in town and their perception of, Kathleen, you've used this metaphor, or this instance, quite a few times. You said you can get a full-size helicopter on the stage for Miss Saigon, and you can't figure out how to get somebody in a wheelchair on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just those kinds of things, and it's more, and it's not out there pounding the pavement saying we deserve this. It's like, we want to do this, and so we did it. So it wasn't so much of a protest kind of thing for, like it was when they stopped the buses on Broadway and Sherman, or Colfax and Broadway. There were people literally sitting in the street stopping the buses. So it wasn't our approach was never a protest kind of thing.
Well, also, you have to remember that Denver was kind of ahead of the curve anyway.
Yeah.
With curb cuts and bus transportation. I worked for RTD, started working for RTD back in '79, and they had 3 routes that were wheelchair accessible. One was on Colorado Boulevard, which is where I worked. One was on Colfax, and I don't even remember where the other one was, but there was only 3 routes that were accessible. But this was long before Phamaly. And so, and curb cuts were already starting to happen before the ADA got passed, because of the fact that in 1989, when we started Phamaly, I read an article from the Boulder newspaper that said there were, was it? I don't remember the exact numbers, but per capita, largest number of disabled people in Colorado compared with the rest of the country. So most people that were disabled were living or moving to Colorado because of accessibility. So it was already things were already happening here, ahead of the curve. And so our timing with Phamaly was just impeccable. It really was on many levels.
And since that time, Why do you think that there's still organizations that are hesitant to start relationships with actors with disabilities and kind of break into new territory?
Because we're not going out and auditioning. We're still, I know even myself am still scared to venture outside of family. I still don't have the confidence to venture outside of family. And Daniel and I were talking today when we were discussing this this talk today, that it would be good to form a group, well, to teach classes on auditioning, and then have a sign-up group for the group that signs up, and then go en masse as a group to audition and have everybody there to pep each other up at the audition. Because if they go with each other, if they go with a buddy type of a thing, I think that people are more likely to go and audition outside of family if they have somebody from family to go with. I think that that might be a good initiative to really get people out there to audition outside of family. Because I think that people are, I know I'm scared, and I know that there are other people that are scared to audition outside of family. It's not the same outside of family. The audition process is not the same as auditioning for family, and the rehearsal is not the same as rehearsing for family. But I'd really love to do a show outside of, I have done shows outside of family, and that's how I know that it's not like family. But I'd love to do another show outside of family because it is fun. It is a good time. But I'd love to do that again. But both of those times that I did something outside of family, they were by invitation.
I think that something that might be considered is, rather than holding a class for the actors to go out beyond family, I think it might be interesting to hold a class for other directors and producers, and just like have our team, our artistic team, actually make some of the other directors and producers and choreographers actually go through a mock family audition, and because I think there's fear on both sides. You know, there's fear from the actors, is like, oh my gosh, family is this really comfortable place where I can be and nobody judges me beyond, you know, they don't judge me on my disability, they judge me on my skill as an actor. I think that on the other side, I think the producers and the directors and all of the other people that do theater outside of family, I think they're just as scared as we are because they don't know how to do it. So it seems it would make sense to me to be able to offer them something that, how they can adapt one of their productions or a season, how they can adapt a season to have somebody in a wheelchair, or somebody who's blind, or whatever the disability is, but to educate them, not just by coming to a show, because people come to the show and they're like, oh my God, that was wonderful, and oh my, but it doesn't go beyond and make them think of, that was really cool, but it stops there. It doesn't go into the, how can I adapt what I'm doing to include somebody like Kathleen or Gregg or myself, you know? And they don't know what our technical skills are either. Gregg is a very accomplished director, but they don't look at him that way. And I am an accomplished dancer and choreographer, but nobody looks at me that way because I'm in a chair. So I think the education needs to come from both sides.
Thank you. Did you have any thoughts around sort of that building that bridge, Greg?
I totally agree with Teri, because working with family is so unique, and then when you add all the different types of disabilities, it can be overwhelming for a director, and especially a director who's never worked with a person with a disability on that level, having to know what that disability entails, how does it affect their ability to rehearse and be a part of the show. I think that it's got to happen from both sides. It's not one or the other. There's got to be a need from the community theaters themselves to actively start opening their doors and welcoming people with disabilities. And at the same time, we have to take the initiative as actors in Phamaly to start pushing those doors to get open as well. I think that's the only way things are going to change. It would be nice to not have to have a family anymore, but then again, I would hate to not have a family, because it is my family. So it's kind of catch-22. So I don't know. I don't have the answer.
And I just want to say a thank you on behalf of everyone in Phamaly for you all and your creation of a space like this for people, and teaching us that challenges are not the end. Challenges are an opportunity to be creative. And that's not something a lot of theaters have had the opportunity to experience at every level. And you all are responsible for creating that kind of narrative for people. So thank you. I would like to close our conversation, unless you have anything else to add, with our favorite family memory.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
My favorite memory was definitely doing Sideshow. I connected with the playwright just as we were talking about doing the show, and I got to write him and tell him that I was playing the lead, and got to invite him to come and see the show. He came to see the show. I got to be friends with him, got to go to San Francisco to see his other show and become friends with Henry Krieger, partied with he and Henry Krieger. It was a magical experience. Sideshow was a magical experience all the way around. I have so much respect for Daisy Hilton, Daisy and Violet Hilton. It was a once in a lifetime play for me to do. It was magical. That's a beautiful show.
For me, to pick a favorite show is actually pretty impossible, because they all meant something special just by virtue of being in them and getting the experience. But one of my favorite memories is from Kiss Me Kate. My street character, because it's a play within a play, so my offstage character was Mabel, and I'm the production manager. So everybody comes to me with all their problems and papers and everything. Well, they built a desk that literally, it had two casters on the far outside. This thing was 6 feet wide and 6 feet, like from the, it was like huge this way, but then it was also 5 feet the other direction. And so I would pick the front end of this thing up and set it down on the frame of my chair, and I would literally roll around with this huge desk attached to my chair. And it worked fine on the linoleum floors in the rehearsal space, but we got onto the stage, and the stage is a rubberized floor, and in the middle of a performance, I was pushing across the stage like I'm supposed to, and then I'm supposed to sit still until the leading man comes on, and just before he starts this beautiful love song, I'm supposed to like quietly go off the other side of the stage. Well, quietly didn't work. All of a sudden, one of the wheels started squeaking right in the middle of this scene that's supposed to be so tender, and then the wheel fell off. So the desk ended up cattywampus, sort of tilted to one side on one end. I could not move. I could not move. And Mark Dissette walked out on the stage, picked up the end of the desk, and said, "Come on, Mabel, let's go." And that's how I got off the stage.
That's great. How about you, Greg?
That's a really loaded question, Erin.
I know. That came hot and heavy.
There's been so many incredible memories. Guys and Dolls, the very first time we did it, Sideshow. It just goes on and on and on. And the opportunities that I've had to not only act with this company, but direct some of the shows I've directed, and worked with so many incredible people that have come and gone through this company. I think for me, the pinnacle at this point in our existence would probably be our 30th anniversary concert. Just because it was mind-boggling to even imagine that we've been around for 30 years. It's still mind-boggling to me, because it seems like yesterday. It's hard to believe that I've doubled in age since that time, but it would take me forever to tell you all the moments that I've had, special moments I've had in this company. But it's Kevin and Teri and Kathleen. I'm so grateful to all of you, and we pursued our dream and made it happen.
Love you guys.
Love you.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.